Good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome to our sixth JCOM Masterclass. Thanks for joining in. Our today's topic is hiring insights, practical lessons for attracting top talent in jewelry retail. My name is Deepak Tulsian. For those who are joining for the first time, I'm a jewelry growth consultant and I help jewelers grow online and offline. Uh, it's my pleasure to welcome our speaker today, Mr. Sameer Sagar, who is a director and co-owner of Manubhai James Private Limited, one of the finest jewelry businesses in India and one of the top jewelers in Mumbai. For those who are joining first time, let me quickly introduce JCOM. It stands for Jewelers Community for Omnichannel Mastery. It's a WhatsApp group of progressive jewelers where we collaborate for exponential omnichannel growth online and offline. So before I invite our speaker, Mr. Sameer, to present, let me quickly introduce the topic and set the context. So jewelry retail in India is undergoing a transformation from unorganized to organized. We can see the chain store jewelers are rapidly expanding and increasing their market share from, let's say, barely 5% about 20 years back to close to 40% now. And the business is shifting from owner driven to process driven, from traditional way of doing business to a very modern way of doing business, family business to a corporate, single store to multi chain store, offline to omni-channel business to a brand, profit-driven to purpose-driven, from me too business to a standout business, from price war to price premium, low profits to high profits, local to global, with digital in place, and slow growth to fast growth. So, what is fundamental to this shift is this is not an incremental change or an improvement. It requires a fundamental rethinking the way we think about business. So let's look at the two stages of any business, not necessarily just jewelry business. There is a startup stage where it is mainly led by entrepreneur or the founder. The focus is on the product at that stage, so getting the product market fit right, as in the right product, the right audience at the right price, so that customers can come back and refer your products to others. But when you get your product market fit, it's a profitable business. Then comes the scale up stage where you want to replicate your success, and which is where from a single store to multi chain store comes in, or online to offline, or offline to omni channel comes in. You diversify your channels and the geographies that you present. This cannot be done single handedly. So, what has worked for you to build a successful, profitable store or a business at a scale up stage, the skill actually changes from entrepreneur skills to management skills, and which is where professional skills are required to replicate that success, and which is where the priority shifts from product to people. Product definitely keeps on improving, but what you need is people. So, what they say is to scale your business, you need entrepreneur. The most successful businesses are built by entrepreneurs. As an entrepreneur, your job is to build entrepreneurs who will build your business. So there's a quote that I picked up: scale. The founder controls the vision and the direction, the values of the company, but depends on people to run the different functions of the company. So here we have an example of a company, one of my most favorite businesses, Manubhai. So before coming to that, let me introduce one more quote. There's a great vision without great people is irrelevant. So Mr. Samir Bhai and his brother Hiran Bhai have both built a single store business into a large business, and recently expanded into multi-store also. What I like the most about this brand is how they have decentralized decision making and a very hands-off approach to management. So we learn the lessons, how they hired top talent, how did they develop talent in-house, and also how they managed to retain talent. Let me quickly introduce Mr. Sameer Sagar. His mission is to achieve sustainable growth with a strong corporate governance. He's a 27th generation jeweler, 24 years plus in the industry. Along with his brother, Mr. Hiran Sagar, he has transformed Manubhai from an unorganized business to one of industry's finest managed organization. He has achieved 25% plus CAGR in the last 5 years. while maintaining or adhering to stringent regulatory standards. We'll learn more about this from him directly. He manages a team of more than or nearly 300 employees. He's an early adopter to social media. Both Instagram and Facebook has a community of about together 700,000, 7 lakh followers. He's joined his family business at the very early age of 16. His personal trait is easy adaptability and strong resilience. And he loves traveling, reading autobiographies, drawing up business model ideas, drinking dark coffee, and being on a business adventure. So, Samir, over to you. We are ready to go through your adventure and pick up the learnings.
Thank you so much. Thank
I
you for the
request everyone else to kindly keep yourself on mute. And in case of questions, you can drop in the chat box or hold it till the end of the presentation. We'll have a live Q&A round. Over to Samir.
Thank you so much for the lovely introduction, Deepak ji. Practically grown up in the industry, and I've been telling everybody it's we are lucky, all of us, to have an industry which is so progressive, and the overall spirit of the all the business owners is of wanting to change, even though each one of us is kind of successful in whatever we are doing, and it's commendable, right? The kind of energy that is there, and the mutual respect. So it's like, this is one of our ways to really share our learnings and share our experiences on how we've, whatever we've learned throughout the journey. This is the current lot of the HODs in our organization. We started professionalizing ourselves in 2015, right? Up until 2015, आप अगर हमको data बोलो तो हमको समझ में आता था computer data, right? So data was some compute data that was being run in the computer. We didn't know even what data was, right? So very naive, very nascent stage पे हमने start किया, and the first thing that we started looking at was data, right? And steadily we've constantly focused on, like Deepak ji mentioned, decentralizing. But more than, I mean, as a word decentralizing, it sounds that हम लोग decentralize कर रहे हैं. But the idea is to have people who are smart enough to do work on their own, right? Easier said than done, and it's a constant क्या बोल सकते हैं, evolution there, and it's never a destination that can be reached. It constantly evolves. Also, it evolves with the company. I'll come to that later. But currently, like where we started, we were a very typical jewelry store, right? Which, by what I mean is, I don't mean it in a bad way, but we are a typical jewelry store at that time. What had the owner really making all the decisions, whether it was discounting or whether it was sale purchase, what to buy, how to buy, all those kind of decisions, right? So छोटे से लेके बड़ा decision. I'll just quickly mention here that 2012 is when we थोड़ा हमने detachment start कर दिया था, like a few decisions, जैसे completely हम regulatory standards follow करेंगे, हम सारा white में ही करेंगे and all that. We had started in 2012, but still operations wise we are still very much like a owner driven, owner run, owner managed company. To now where we are happy and glad that we are not just out of daily execution, but even on a quarterly basis, some strategy and all that is kind of decided and discussed and come kind of charted out by the team. We just control the broader vision, the broader strategy. Having said that, बोलने में अच्छा लगता है, but having said that, it's a constant learning evaluation process where the team has to be constantly guided, mentored, reviews say, held accountable, even ourselves, right? As the owners, as the promoters of the company, we have to hold ourselves in check as well, right? So that's where we are right now in terms of management. Whatever follows really is a complete learning या हमारा experience से आने वाला चीज. There is, I don't have any resources or any kind of studies to back up for whatever I'll share from here onwards. It's purely based on my experience of trying to get management right at my organization. Yeah, so I'll just quickly get to the part. 1 second, this thing is not moving ahead. Can you see it? What can you see on my screen, Deepak ji?
The management at Manuhai.
Okay, for some reason this is not moving ahead.
You can probably pause and share again.
Yeah. Okay. So Deepak ji kind of shared this challenge statement with me, saying that attracting talent is a big pain for family jewelers who want to scale. And talent joins but leaves within a few weeks due to toxic culture or whatever reason, right? But leaves within a few. So we are saying attracting and retaining talent is a challenge, जिसके बारे में आज बात करेंगे, right? We generally want to address anything by the power of why, right? So generally there is a concept of 5 whys. You go to 5, ask 5 times why. Okay, I've used it multiple times here, but it's more like saying that going backwards, more like a surgical procedure on you. So you say, okay, what is the reason this is happening? Why is then this happening? Why is then this happening? So for today's exercise, let's say our top talent is Cyril. Anybody knows who Cyril is?
Ex-CEO of Cartier.
Perfect. So I mean, our industry, I constantly hear, we should be the next Cartier and the next Louis Vuitton or whatever, right? So just for fun's sake, we are saying, okay, now we either have Cyril ji on our board as we've hired him, or you can also look at this exercise where we want to attract Cyril, like because now we aspire to be this big business, and as top talent, we are trying to get somebody to get us there, right? So those scenarios may help karega. One caveat I'll start here is I will be sharing experience from middle management and top management. The frontline executives या उसका management के बारे में मैं ज़्यादा touch नहीं कर रहा हूँ, because again we are talking about retaining top talent. Now retaining Cyril or attracting Cyril ji is a challenge. Okay, हमने retain कर लिया, अगर हमने रख लिया है तो he is not happy, या हम उसको attract करना है, हम attract नहीं कर पा रहे हैं. We start with our first why. Now generally my experience is that middle management and top management, especially top management, would not shift jobs primarily for money, right? Because they have bigger ambitions, okay? And having reached where they are in terms of middle management or top management, they've kind of seen the world enough to know that, okay, पैसे के लिए मैं खाली shift करूंगा, it would not be the best choice. So my experience is generally top talent leaves when if they're with us, if they feel a lack of growth, whether personally, as a professional within the organization, or they feel a lack of growth in the organizational level. कि organization बहुत grow नहीं करेगा, right? And if we are trying to attract the same thing, they don't see a scope of growth for themselves, or they don't see a scope of growth for the organization. Okay, so there's a feeling of lack of growth. Okay, now let's say I'm just putting names here. Let's say Titan wants to they put out a higher thing, versus somebody like us puts out a higher thing, right? The response would be phenomenally different. Why? Because everybody sees a growth pattern there, right? I'm just giving names, and you can put it as different examples, but wherever you feel that यहाँ पे growth मिलेगा is where top talent would want to be in and would like to go. Now again, why there's a feeling of lack of growth? Okay, there is a lack of performance. Now there's a lack, this could be on multiple levels, right? So again, as a professional, either the management feels that हम growth नहीं दे सकते because this particular candidate is not performing, either the organization is not performing, okay, or most often the case is that there are lack of performance matrix in place, right? So even if there is some performance, हमको समझ में नहीं आता है. Even if there is no performance, हमको समझ में नहीं आता, right? With performance, there is, what our understanding is, there is never a white and a black. There is always a gray, right? Your matrix makes it a little bit towards white and black. Okay, so lack of matrix generally kind of becomes a thing where मुझे समझ में ही नहीं आ रहा है, मैं perform नहीं कर रहा हूँ. And remember, top talent want to have performance-led growth, right? They are generally people who want to know how are they performing, right? So if the matrix is missing, there is a feeling of lack of growth. Now, why is there a lack of performance matrix or a lack of performance felt or any of those areas around lack of performance? Is either a lack of skill, either a lack of will and or a fit in the organization, or sometimes it's all of them. Let's take the example of Cyril Ji. Okay, in that case, okay, we know he was the CEO of Cartier, so probably the skill set is there. But then the skill set might be to run an organization like Cartier, where everything is well oiled. You have your middle management is like top end talent. Okay, but do they have the skill to convert an unorganized business to an organized one? To really work with older employees who are resisting change, to really kind of work along with the owner who is also around and a big stakeholder in the entire change process, right? So skill does not necessarily mean in one area. Skill should be defined in the area of the business that we are running in, which will come out further ahead. But skill is a very important point that we should be focusing on defining the skill, right? Then there's the will, right? A lot of times talent, the top talent or the top management has grown in environments where the organizational the organizational operations were kind of in a sync or alignment with their growth. Okay, what do I mean by that? Okay, let's say somebody is moved from a regional chain to a national chain. Okay, now रीजनल चेन का उनको एक्सपीरियंस मिल गया, वो अलाइनमेंट था, वो स्केल था, वो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर था, राइट? एंड दे वेंट टू अ नेशनल thing. Now they had the scale, the entire thing to kind of show performance there. Okay, naturally in those environments that person might have the will to perform on their area of performance, whereas if they are in a space where they have to now convert a unorganized business into an organized one, okay, wo will hai ki nahi? Is there a will to work with older employees? Is there a will to engage with broader culture problems, right? So you have the skill, you have the will and the fit, right? Now say for example Amazon जैसे culture में Cyril जी को hire कर लिया. Now this Cartier guy comes from a very different culture. His thought process is very different. His approach now, he wants the like his office to be 7-star, whereas the culture at Amazon probably doesn't have that kind of allowances, right, to have that kind of offices, right? So it will be a very wrong fit there. I'm giving a broader example. Let me give an example more closer. Let's say we hire somebody from a regional chain, and he's been there for some time. Okay, and he's only worked with top class talent. He's only worked on a very macro level. Okay, and his mannerisms, the way he talks, the way he behaves, cannot connect with the frontline employees, right? So it will be a wrong fit. Okay, this also extends to values. Like for example, some places the whole performance culture is very cutthroat, right? You are constantly chasing numbers. Does anything else doesn't matter. You want to close that client. You want that bigger ticket size converted. Okay, and you get a top performer somewhere else. Okay, a top talent, but who's very mild, who's not cutthroat, who gets suffocated around in a cutthroat environment. Okay, immediately wrong fit. Same with the other way, right? Like in our organization, we are always about culture first, performance later, right? So, for example, if there is a superstar, but he or she has tantrums, we will ensure that that is conveyed to her, and eventually either she or he changes, or he or she will not have a place in our organization, right? So even though it's a top talent, top performer, all those skill wheels are being ready to engage with people and all that, but is not the right culture, there's a fit problem. And sometimes that all three, like 100% Cyril in my organization would be a skill problem, will problem, and a fit problem, right? तो यहाँ पे question आता है, why did we hire a candidate, this kind of a candidate, right? We ultimately हमने ही decision लिया था इनको लेके आने के लिए. Why did that happen? So again, why was the wrong hiring done? Is lack of clear benchmarking. Now benchmarking could be both ways. Benchmarking could be on the position level and on the candidate level as well. Okay, I'll explain a little bit. So जैसे मैंने पहले बताया, right, the fit part, the skill part, the will part, so all these should be benchmarked first. Okay, so अगर मुझे कोई चीज के लिए hire करना है, it should be very clear what kind of qualifications is required, what kind of experiences is required. Let's say I'm an organization where unorganized ही है पूरा, right? अभी मुझे setup करना है completely. So I need to get somebody with an experience of doing that. It will not help me if I'm getting somebody experienced in running bigger organizations, or somebody kind of operating at a high level, but at a place where owner is still running everything. Right? So I need experiences relevant to my positions. I need qualification relevant. So all those need to be benchmarked. Personality of the candidate should be benchmarked. The conflict, कैसे conflict manage करते हैं, कैसे change manage approach करते हैं, right? So you want all those value systems benchmarked. So there should be like a, जैसे movies में casting होता है, right? This is exactly like that. You need all those attributes benchmarked clearly, right? ये benchmarking clear नहीं होगा, that is where the first step of wrong hiring kind of starts. Why are they lack of benchmarking? Generally, in my experience, unclear role definition. Okay, हमको organized होना है, fine. हमको management पे जाना है, fine. But what is the role that I'm bringing this person in? Okay, Cyril ji, the CEO of Cartier, if I bring him in, what is his role going to be exactly? Is he going to look at the brand? Is he going to look at the operations? Is he going to look at the team and the training and the team benchmarking and the team kind of how they are attending the customers? Is he going to look at the merchandising mix, the product placement? What is he going to look at, right? And what will be his role exactly be? Okay. वैसे अगर like if I had to give you a छोटो example, let's say we are getting some kind of a manager in. Okay, what is that manager going to exactly manage? Let's say हम sales role में किसी को लेके आए. Okay, what are we expecting out of that person? Are we expecting that वो खुद interact करके customer close करे, or will he be always in the background and train a team of 10 people to get their performance up? Or will this person go and meet and develop that network of people and get groups of people at the store? What is the exact expectations or the role definition of this particular candidate? Okay. Why are they unclear roles? Because there is either a missing or an ineffective organizational chart. Okay. Now, I feel that on a human resource, like the manpower part, this is the most important thing to crack. Okay, and the most gadbad piece of generally anybody trying to crack with happened with us lot of time. Okay, होता क्या है that what now first I'll tell why the organizational chart is really important again according to me. A well-defined organizational chart will define the seat, which is the role, okay, the authority matrix, okay, which means that इनको कौन report करेगा ये particular position in the organizational chart और ये किनको report करेगा, okay. Why this is very important is because if you want to decentralize, if you want to delegate authority, okay, it should be done in a way where everybody is clear that this authority उनके पास है और ये authority उनके पास नहीं है. Let's say you're going to get somebody for sales, okay, as a management person, okay, क्या उनको pricing का authority है या उनको pricing का authority नहीं है? क्या उनको if that person finds somebody who's not the right fit, क्या उनको निकालने का authority है या उनको निकालने का authority नहीं है? Okay, क्या, because otherwise now it's a complete, if that is not defined, then it is a complete mix, right? So अगर हम strategic किसी को लेके आने वाले हैं, okay, let's say हम किसी को strategic level पे लेके आए, okay, and there is a store manager already with us since 10 years or 15 years. This strategy guy can come up with the most whatever strategy, but if the store guy is not going to listen to him, okay, nothing is going to happen, right? So this lady or guy in the strategy part needs somebody the store manager reporting to this person. Now here's the tricky part. Authority to remove and keep that person should always be with the person on top. In my organization, I can have a very favorable opinion or a disfavorable opinion about anybody in the front line, but ultimately whether to keep, whether to retain, whether to remove, or what to do will always rest on the manager. I will not have any say. I refrain from even commenting too much. Okay, I hold the manager responsible for the results. That's about it, right? Now let's say if ये केस में जब हम कर रहे थे, we have bought a strategic lady for crafting our sales strategy, and then you have a store manager who's with us for 15 years and is not going to listen to the strategy person. Okay, you have to decide, do you want to build a smaller strategic role below the store manager position, right? And once you build it below the store manager, now it becomes the responsibility of the store manager to really implement. Okay, and that is what the organizational chart does, especially with joint families, with multiple family members in the role. Organizational chart is very, very important. Okay? Like Hiren would have his own set of areas and organizational seats that occupy below him. I would have my own. Why? We can, touch wood, we share an amazing bond and we are constantly talking and kind of discussing and giving feedback to each other. But at the end of the day, the decision remains of the person on that particular seat, right? So this is a very important part jo define karna, and you will never get it right the first time. Okay, you will always need a few iterations before you get it right. My experience has been really asking the tough questions pehle se while drawing the organizational chart really helps. That if this performer is not performing, like the store manager, suppose उसके वो नहीं सुनने वाला strategy person का, and I'm going to get a strategy person below the store manager, for example. And then if still the store manager does not perform, am I going to keep him or am I going to remove him? Right? So all these tough questions अगर पहले पूछ लिए, it really helps define the organizational chart better. Going further, why are there organizational chart issues in general? Because there is a lack of HR strategy. Okay. Now, what is an HR strategy? Broadly is defining मेरे लोग क्या काम करेंगे, right? Saying that sales karenge is very easy, but there are various different types of sales. Right? So like Anmol would have a very different way of selling than what Manubhai would have. Okay? Tanish and Manubhai would have a very different way of selling stuff. If I would be an Anmol, I would keep the hierarchy as less as possible. I don't want too much hierarchy because then I want to be extremely good at my HNI customers management, and I want to be extremely good at my design development management. Everything else can find its way eventually due course mein. Okay, I just don't want to create too many layers where now my attention is moved from actually managing the core of the business to just managing processes and for the sake of managing. Whereas, let's say hamara jaisa organization hai, where we have multiple line of businesses, multiple price points, multiple this, I would need a multi-layered organizational chart and an HR strategy to match that. So HR strategy kya define karega is, would we have a flat organization or do we need a hierarchical organization? Do we need more? And this also kind of changes from time to time, right? So as you evolve, this needs to change. So do we abhi ek sath karne ko jayenge to kuch nahi hoga. What, let's say I want to fix my sales first, or fix my operations first, or fix my accounting first, or whatever area. Okay, I'm going to say for this year my HR strategy is to really build that particular muscle, and then I'll start building the organizational chart with that intent. अगर मैं बहुत सारे मैनेजर्स बहुत एक टाइम पे हायर कर लूंगा, आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू एबल टू मैनेज, बिकॉज मैं सबको इवेल्युएट नहीं करूंगा, रिमेंबर द परफॉर्मेंस, द ग्रोथ, मैं सबको ग्रोथ नहीं दे पाऊंगा, इट विल बी अ मेस. So having a HR strategy which defines what are you going to do and when with your team is very important. Now, issues with the HR strategy क्यों आते हैं is because there is a poorly defined business strategy, and I see it very honestly, I see this a lot of time in the industry where we somehow chase the next shiny thing, right? So agar hum boutique space mein hai and Carrot Lane is getting suddenly some amazing valuation, we will all want to start chasing the smaller ticket size products. Okay, I'm not saying smaller ticket size nahi karna chahiye, but there should be a business strategy to do that. Business strategy is a space where you will decide कि आप business का कैसे आपका strategy implement करोगे, right? So the strategy could be मैं HNIs chase करूँगा. Okay, now I want to increase my business at this point of time. Okay, so do I get into smaller products, or I just reach out to more HNIs? Now that's where the business strategy comes into place. I can reach out more HNIs in one place by expanding there and kind of doing whatever that needs to be done there. Okay, or I can open up multiple boutiques in like top cities where I can now chase HNIs of those cities. Okay. Or whether I will say that, okay, you know what, I really want to be in the mid segment, really not penetrate the market too much. I want a presence in multiple markets, and eventually I want my IPO listing to happen. Okay, so all those decisions on kya karna chahiye should come from the business strategy, okay, which is closely tied up, and yahan pe gadbad kaha hota hai, is the undefined business model. Now, what is a business model and a very base level thing? Okay, who is my customer और मैं उनको कैसे सर्विस करने वाला, plain and simple. And equally important to define who is not my customer और मैं कैसे सर्विस नहीं करने वाला. Okay, so for us, because we follow the regulatory standards, okay, certain HNI customers are not our customers. We don't chase them. We don't waste our marketing budgets where they are. We don't have that kind of talent which kind of services them. Sometimes we don't even have the merchandise jo ultra HNIs for service karega, because there's a very few percentage who would want to kind of buy within the regulatory standards. Okay. So again, defining who your customer is very, very important. And then also putting on paper who your customer is not. Okay. Let's now go back to Cyril, right? If I am going to get Cyril, okay, because of whatever I've up until here now, मेरे पास HNI customer, what will Cyril do? Because ultimately his thing is about ultra HNIs, right? The main business that comes from for luxury brands is from ultra HNIs, right? But वो मेरे लिए useful ही नहीं है. So this will keep on tying back to really defining who you as a business, who is your customer, and who is not your customer. Okay. Generally, this is undefined. We, again, as an industry, we chase the next shiny thing. I hear a lot of we should be the next Cartier, or we should be the next Louis Vuitton, or we should be this. I don't agree. I feel that we should be in a business of generating business. Okay, there is no wrong strategy. You have the Walmarts of the world who are not in the luxury model. There is luxury, there is one space, but apart from like uber luxury, there are multiple levels that a brand can grow in, right? So while it may be a personal choice, which brings me to another part is weak business की होता है because की unclear vision. We want to be the next Cartier, or we want to be the next Tanishq, or we want to be the next Carrot Lane, or we want everything under the umbrella that the jewelry comes. Unclear vision is at the root of all the business problems. Okay, there should be a very clear vision on where my organization fits and where I want to grow. Okay, whether I want to scale in terms of number of showrooms, whether I want to scale vertically, whether I want to kind of have only HNIs as my customers, whether I want to have a regulatory framework or so strong or not, it has to be very clear. Okay. Why is the vision unclear in my experience? Why was my vision unclear? Probably because the vision is detached from reality. What do I mean by that is, so for a vision, a few realities is what I have come to understand that needs to be looked at. One is the market reality. Okay, what does the market look like, right? So अभी जैसे हम बोल रहे हैं कि हमको brand बनाना है, right? And हमको, we want to be in that uber luxury space, or we want to be the next Carrot Lane, or whatever that space is. Okay, what is the reality of my market at this point of time? Now, if you see, there is no coincidence that all the top jewelers right now, the top national chains, right, are all South based. There is a reason behind that, because South is such a strong jewelry market. The first 20-30 stores, उनके लिए करना कोई बड़ी बात नहीं थी, उनको मालूम है उनको बिजनेस मिलने वाला है. As big as around 50 stores तक उनको साउथ का मार्केट is more than enough for them. 50 के बाद probably they start looking a little bit up north, right? Now Kalyan, Malabar, Tanishq for that matter started off from Bangalore. Of course, Tanishq DNA is completely different, but all your Tanga Malai, GRT, all those names that we saw in the market share are South dominated. Why? Because South is a strong jewelry market. Why do you think there is no like strong regional brands or national brands coming out from West? Because West is not a strong jewelry market. Okay, so what is that market reality is something that we should be aware of. All these realities ka one thing is, it's not that it's uske samne jaake karna, it's not possible. It is possible. It's just like swimming against the current. So if you're trying to move from unorganized to organized, you're already moving against a big current of change. Or usme you want to have as fewer headwinds as possible, right? So market reality ko dekh ke jana is very important. Infrastructure reality. Again, going back to the whole point of being a brand, right? Does your the place that you are operating from have that kind of infrastructure? The Dior store in Dubai does around 1500-1700 crore per year, right? Business from that one store in Dubai Mall. Okay, now take that same store and put it just 2 kilometers or 1 kilometers away. It won't do nearly as much as that amount of business. Why? Because the infrastructure of that mall is getting those customers, those high-end customers in one place enough for that store to do that breakout business. Same thing with if you go to any Paris, yeah, har jagah pe jao na, there will be areas where you have that infrastructure, high street infrastructure, yeah, whatever infrastructure built in place where you are able to kind of have that kind of customers. Scaling ki agar baat kare, okay, manpower infrastructure, talented, like ready talented manpower infrastructure. Okay, is that available? If it's not available, you will have to grow it, right? So your vision should accommodate that reality as well. Founders reality. Now I've written founders, but family, owner, whatever आप substitute करना चाहते हो कर सकते हो. I could never be a Sabyasachi kind of a brand, no matter how much strategic vision we have or kind of management manpower we have. We can never be, because our personality does not kind of accommodate PR, Bollywood mixing, the pushing, the lobbying with the stylist, the initial जो लगता है to get into that space, okay, वो करने का हमारा personality ही नहीं, and it's not something that I'll enjoy as well, right? Let's say किसी को, there are people who are not able to really, who want to be in the limelight, right? Who want the customers to know who the owner is, okay? And they'll think that, okay, let me create a very management strong structure. Wrong alignment, okay? Like we are not involved with the customer. I could walk around the store and nobody recognizes us, right? We don't interact with any customers, no matter the ticket size, okay? But that is something that we enjoy, right? When I say we enjoy, is we enjoy being in the background. We don't enjoy being in the foreground. But for some people, that's a very strong value prop, okay? So again, please account for your reality. Again, हम बोलेंगे हमको एक kind of a luxury brand बनना है, okay? But as founders, as owners, are we aligned towards that? And my family has very middle class values and middle class roots. We would never be comfortable in very opulent settings, right? Hence, we are anyway not comfortable with ultra HNIs because हम connect ही नहीं कर पाते. We still at home, we still live the way we were living in mid-90s. So there's a lack of alignment there, right? So all those realities must be accounted in the vision. The customer reality goes in hand with the other reality. मुझे अल्ट्रा HNIs चाहिए, right? Borivali anyway is a struggle to get those ultra HNIs. Borivali के HNIs Borivali से buy नहीं करते, they go and buy from Anmol, right? So it's the perception reality, the customer reality. If I'm coming from Borivali is almost like a B or C tier city, okay, I have to account for that reality if I'm building that vision. If my vision is to really strong vision to build a luxury brand, I need to move South Mumbai or Bandra and start from there. Same with geographic reality ties back, right? Why do you think of most of luxury brands are coming from 2 or 3 cities in Europe? Okay, it is not a coincidence. It is how the perception of that geography is, right? I'm vacationing in Italy has a very different ring than I'm vacationing in, let's say, Cambodia, right? That's the reality. Okay, and that needs to be factored in the vision. So again, going back to the vision being attached to reality, this is what I mean, a few factors that we've learned. Again, I put here a disclaimer that again, there's no research, there's nothing that can back out with. This is what we've understood from running our business. So going now, building up further is the base becomes the clear vision. Okay, what my business is, with the business model, who my customer is, who my customer isn't, how will I service them, how will I not service them. Like no amount of business हम लोग cash में नहीं करेंगे. It's like no brainer. That's the business model that we've adopted, right? Strategy to implement the business model. Okay, what is my now with all this in place? Where am I going to get my growth from? Okay, so uska strategy kya hai? Which is the customer? Which is the market that I will go at? Where is the price point that I will be strong at? What is the offering that I will do? Okay, next step becomes in alignment with that strategy. What kind of HR manpower mujhe chahiye? What kind of area will I be focusing on? What kind of muscle will I be building? What kind of management will I be bringing in? Okay, do I need management who's very kind of just managing a few people, or now I need leaders who are managing other managers who are now managing people? Okay, based on that, you have the organizational chart as per the HR strategy. Okay, and as I mentioned, organizational chart for manpower management is invaluable, and clear roles and expectation on for each seat on the organizational chart. Okay, building upon that, clear candidate benchmarking, who's my right fit, what is the skill set that I require, what is the kind of mindset that I require. Once I have that, right recruitment, okay, bringing the right candidates in. Performance led, sorry, one step above is transparent and clear measurement to measure performance. Okay, now here I'll share our experience. Again, you will not get it right ever. Okay, you will have to have benchmarking there as well. Whatever measurement matrix आपने set किए हुए हैं, you can say okay, if it's above 80%, I'm going to be okay, right? So please have some jiggle room there. It cannot be completely black and white, otherwise there are so many other aspects that should factor in, जो हम इसमें कभी भी factor नहीं कर पाते हैं. हमने right बंदा लेके आया sales के लिए, but हम walk-ins नहीं दे पा रहे उनको उतने. A lot of factors, right? So there has to be some kind of jiggle room there, but it has to be transparent and clear. Okay, this is what we are going to measure. Performance-led growth. Okay, now what happens in our industry is generally growth in like owner-led organization is by the time spent in the organization, which is fair because you need that loyal people around. But you want to move towards performance-led growth and not time-led growth, right? So once you have the matrix, people who perform, you give them growth, you give them opportunity to grow further, mentor them, and people who are not performing, train them. If not, they can have their say, or you can kind of get them out of the organization. And once you are up all this, is where your employee retention will be cracked, more or less. Similarly, for attraction, once you have all this in place, okay, you will exactly know what kind of employee is going to come, and there is a change in energy as well, right? So agar, let's say the CEO of Cartier is not going to want to work at Manubai, okay, if I want to attract, if I feel the need to attract talent, that means kahan na kahan mera ye cycle mein gadbadi hai. If I'm clear with this entire cycle, generally people come to you, or you get the right fit. Your recruitment agency is very clear on what needs to be done to get that, what kind of candidate needs to be bought in. Generally attraction mein problem nahi aata if all these things are done right? So yeah, so all done. Cyril ji is khush because wo Manubai mein nahi kaam kar raha hai. Main khush hu because he is not working for us, right? And it's an evolution process. There is never like I mentioned, it's a journey. There's no destination there. When you kind of constantly keep on revisiting this as you are in different cycles of growth, right?
Amazing, Sameer bhai, amazing. Amazing to listen to that.
Superb,
Thank you.
Samir bhai. I think the way you presented, it was like a movie, a story we were watching, beautifully narrated, and especially the way you filled each layer and took us step by step down to the vision, not just the tactical approach or the strategy, the business model, and right to the vision, the foundation. In the layer that you showed, the vision rests as the foundation, and on top of it, layer by layer, you have built. So it reflects, the kind of clarity, conviction you have in your approach. When you said, this is what we will do, this is what we will not do, no matter what. So this is what helps you, stay focused and not get distracted with the shiny objects, those that you mentioned. So what I've done, first of all, thanks so much for, being generous and sharing these learnings that you had on your own. I have noted down a few quick questions. I had got few questions in advance from the team, and I'm sure the audience would have some live questions for you. So I would ask one or two questions that I noted down. First is you mentioned, to hire, there's a skill, will, and fit. These three things you look at. Skill, to a certain extent, it's presented in the resume, which you can test. Will, you can, check the interest levels. Now the fit, which you mentioned, is the fundamental or the most important part. Before hiring, I'm curious to know, how do you actually see whether the person is a fit with your culture?
So generally, again, it is an art, never a science. Okay, by that I mean is there is no way to have really kind of perfect it. And like art, you want to perfect it every time as you go. But what you've learned is that asking questions about their past scenarios. Like example, if I'm hiring a management person, I will definitely ask about उन्होंने past में कौन सा conflict फेस किया है और उसको कैसे रिजॉल्व किया है. Okay, I will definitely ask is what what is something that is tolerable to them and what is something that is not tolerable. Okay, I will definitely ask is what mistakes have they done and how have they approached those mistakes. So because my organization, we are very big on teamwork. Okay, performance can be aage piche, we are okay. Your team agar gadbad hai, like I mentioned, we will not tolerate superstars with an ego. Okay, so if somebody is coming with full of air, okay, we don't want that person. Okay, not and I don't say this from a space of superiority. वो बंदे के लिए भी life खराब हो जाएगा because here he will just feel out of place.
Not a good fit.
Not a good fit, right? So you
Great.
want to ask real life questions about their past experiences and also throw some hypothetical scenarios which we face in our organization. जैसे कि ये ऐसा सिनेरियो आएगा तो क्या करोगे, ये होगा तो क्या करोगे. Generally their answers में समझ में आ जाता है whether the right space or not.
With the real examples of situations how they have addressed or they
Yeah.
would want to address. Second question quickly. In our industry, especially in jewelry, in family businesses, there are multiple owners also in many organizations. And in my experience while consulting, I have noticed, as you mentioned, the org structure is not clearly defined. And most of the team report to the owners jointly. So it's not demarcated who would report to which owner. So the owners kind of sit in the top and the entire team reports into them. Now, what has been your experience? Did you had a situation where people are reporting to multiple owners or you have people specifically reporting to each owner?
So at the base, I would say agar multiple owners hain, right? At the base, it's very important to, again, that's a reality which should be accounted in the vision. Okay, now there will be broadly two sets of owners, okay, two mindsets of the multiple owners. One is are people who are okay with boundaries, who are okay with role definitions for themselves, who are okay saying that acha ye area mera hai aur ye area mera nahi hai. Okay, and I have no ego riding, and I don't say in a negative way, but personal values are right. I don't have any ego riding with my work thing. And then there is a set of people where there is also family politics sometimes, right? There are dynamics that are happening, and I don't mean again it in a negative way. It's the reality. Okay, that should be accounted for because no matter how effective organizational chart आपने बना लिया, but if the basics are not right, वो organizational chart will fall flat because the जो dynamic वाला चल रहा है will always try to kind of play out in the organizational chart as well, right? So if that is the case, it's a difficult. I won't lie. It's a difficult scenario because the people will know that the organizational chart will fall flat. It's a difficult scenario. I have, thankfully, amazing kind of relationship with my brother, so I don't have a very. But for people that I've seen in my relationships and other people, it's a tough one. If the dynamics are not clear. For the other scenario where the dynamics are clear, like in our case, a clear demarcation. Again, we have a place in the organizational chart as well. Okay, and clear demarcation of role for us as well. Like I don't look at sales. I would never have a strong opinion about sales policies. I'm there on the table. I put my feedback, whether it's completely rubbish, whether it's taken into account. I have zero say on. But I think that first understanding where you stand, मतलब अगर dynamics ठीक नहीं है, I think a different approach should be taken. But if the dynamics are right, have clear definitions on who's doing it. Sometimes along with the owners, there are also old stakeholders which are in.
Samir bhai, we lost your voice.
On the organizational chart, and the role should be defined to them as well.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. I think there was.
I'm sorry, there's some
little bit of-
construction. I'm sorry. This.
No problem. So great. So what I hear and understand is at the top, at the owner's level, also there has to be role clarity. as we put together role clarity in the organization. One more question before I move to audience round. Uh, See, when we hire as a owner, I saw there's a tendency of, let's say, owners identifying top talent and letting that person report into a junior management. So, as in you hiring someone for another team, and when that person does not perform, that manager would come back and say, you only hired. So, what is the approach that you follow? Do you hire for your team, as in people who are not reporting to you, or you let your managers hire and take the decision?
No, absolutely. No hiring for the team. I only hire for my direct reports. Like if somebody is going to report to me directly, is where only I hire. I again the organizational chart. If there is a position there and below that, whoever is there is that person's responsibility. Hire, fire, you do it alone. I really don't care. I don't interfere. I do a one round of interview for the culture fit. Okay, if the culture fit is not right, I don't we don't get him on.
What if you have an old school manager who has been there for 10, 15 years, not able to hire, never hired talent? So he's skilled in hiring, let's say, raw talent, locally available people, but not good talent. As the organization grows, you want people who can write SOPs, but the show manager himself has no exposure to it. He's a good performer as a sales, but just that he's not exposed to other certain skill sets and he's not able to hire. So in that case, what do you do?
So your organizational chart should answer that, right? Because now if that person, the store manager is there and unka role kya hai? If the role ka definition is running the entire operations of the store, but then the skill is not there, I need to question that position, right? But now if I don't want to remove that person, I would go as far as opening a seat for that person where saying that आप relationship ही रखो customer के साथ. Okay, operations के लिए I'll get somebody else in the, and that's what we've also done. We've had somebody who's been with us almost as part of the family now, and but not good with ops. It's fine. We've created a seat for relationship, and given him his team to maintain those relationships, while there's somebody else doing the operations part.
So you
So again,
create new seats.
her seat ka skill will fit is very important, right? You want to know whether if you put somebody the position. That's why benchmarking is important, right? So once I benchmark a position, saying that इसमें तो SOP लिखने का भी ability चाहिए. But then if it's not there in this person, either I remove it, but वो possible नहीं है. Then I find the next best option, which is opening a seat.
But you get an expertise in that case yourself.
हाँ जी.
Great. Thank you so much, Samir. Now let's welcome any direct questions from the audience. You can either type in chat box or ask directly.
I don't have a question, but I have a very strong observation, and I'm very impressed with this one quality of Samir. You know, he says that we know this is what we are, and this is our, and we are not interested in ultra HNIs. You know, it takes a very strong self-worth. You know, you have to be feeling so worthy of yourself that it doesn't matter. I mean, you must be Mukesh Ambani, you're there, I'm happy where I am. And, you know, I'm okay, I will watch you on Instagram, but beyond that, I'm not interested. It's so important to have that, self-worth. And that is why I think the success has come, because, you know, the ability to say no to a lot of things is where we all go wrong. You know, we don't know where and to what to say no to. And I think that is one big lesson I have learned in today's session, apart from, all the other very...
I have a very strong ultra HNI guy in Bandra. I sent my ultra HNI friends there.
No, really. Very, very nice.
Amazing. So basically, strategy is saying the ability to say no to 1,000 things and focus on the few things which really matter. Great. Thank you, Ishu sir. Let's hear any other questions. Or I have a written questions the audience had asked. I can go to those.
I had one.
Yes, Sonali, go ahead.
I wanted to know from Samir Bhai, of course, a very, very wonderful session. Thank you. That while hiring, like, sometimes what would you prefer to kind of upskill your own employee for a certain job wherein that expertise is not there? Or would you want to hire someone first? Like, what would be the approach? In the sense that, when you're having a small company and, resources are not so much, then you would probably spend time in training that person, or would you rather hire a skilled person? What has been your experience?
Thank you, Sonali. Very interesting question. So what happens is, again, if you look at the flow, your first step would be the organization defining the seat and the benchmarking according to that seat. Once you have the benchmarking in place, you kind of put the other person in comparison. And let's take the example that Deepak Bhai gave, that I have a store guy who's supposed to run the operations. Now, benchmarking mein bol raha hai ki he should have the skill set of creating SOPs and running as per SOPs. And now the store person that I have is not so far done any sort of such things. Our our experience has been that the first approach is always to try and train the person that you have. If the person is trainable, okay, it is always better. Recruitment is a pain. It is a process. Getting somebody in, there's just too many ripple effects that happen in the organization. I would first give a wholehearted try to upskill the person that I have. If nahi hai, then it's a different story.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, because I am actually having that issue right now, and that's why I asked that question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Also, I
Sonali.
think doing that will create a positive environment where people will see you doing that, right? So they'll think that, "Acha, chalo, bhai, inhone mere pe try kar liya, abhi nahi hua, to now this is the thing."
So it would
Yeah.
reduce the amount of conflict in the organization.
Yeah.
There's a fair chance being given.
Yeah.
Yes. Samir bhai,
Samir
one
bhai,
question.
yeah, Samir bhai, very good afternoon. It was amazing presentation, I would say. Amazing learning for all of us.
They are
And
sharing our
very well,
learning, nothing.
and I think
Yeah.
very well presented, first of all, itna deeper, I've taken the notes also very well. So amazing, yes, amazing. One question is coming in my mind, Samir bhai, how much you feel like ek hai ki hiring an expert maybe from a jewelry industry versus hiring some freshers? So how would you rate that? And
Again,
what is
depends on the org chart and the benchmarking. There are some areas where freshers are okay. Like for example, sales. Generally, freshers are okay. आप उनको product training दे दो. Like it's a crash course sometimes. Sometimes it takes their own time, but वो सीख जाएंगे. Okay. But let's say it's something to do with merchandising. I would want somebody from the industry. Okay, because again, merchandising में भी क्या करना है, right? Sometimes it's managing merchandising operations, the supply chain. Okay, तो शायद नहीं चलेगा बाहर का बंदा, because I don't really, for them, product doesn't matter, right? It needs to be the process. But if we have somewhere where product expertise is required, वो benchmarking से आ जाता है, where you benchmark and you know that this position requires product expertise. So then you know कि मुझे product industry में से ही लेना है. From my experience, most of the positions don't require product experience. Okay, but for management positions, it is always better to get, because what happens is, if you have somebody you need either somebody who's supremely confident, who's come with no product knowledge, but वो अपने junior से सीख के तो भी एक step अपने को ऊपर रख पाता है energy wise, right? But if you have somebody who's coming from an outside industry and not confident, the juniors will kind of फिर उसको अपना नीचे बिठा लेंगे, right? So either that, or you have somebody who's come with an experience that that energy is right, I know things and I'm in control. So it really depends on the energy of that guy or that lady also.
Okay. But do you invest in young talent also, like new MBAs and all that? कि आके कुछ try करो for new strategy?
Love young talent, inexperienced talent, love it, right? I mean, worth every effort that you put in them.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Samir, I have a question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Samir, great presentation. Thank you so much for all the insights. So following up on Akshayji's question, when you have these new talents, freshers coming in, how do you adapt your workplace to these millennials, to these Gen Zs and the corporate style of working? how do you, how does the workplace evolve and adapt at the same point of time?
It's a mix, right? And abhi bhi hum evolve because this changes have just started coming in. So we evolve ho rahe hain. But like example, one of the things that we've become casual about is बहुत ज़्यादा rules regulation वैसे भी नहीं चलते हैं, right? So थोड़े relax रख दें, we give them, so we have a cafe and they can come and have their coffee or whatever. And they need a little bit of a offhand approach. Other than that, if your values are in place, the benchmarkings are in place, generally you get the right fit there as well, right? But having said that, team भी एक दूसरे को संभाल लेता है, right? दूसरे को देख के, दूसरे को करके संभाल लेता है. Again, it goes back to the fit. A very, 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 let's say, modern lifestyle Gen Z would not fit into the Manubai sales culture, but would fit very well in our back office culture. So it really depends on the benchmarking. Again, I'll keep on going back, but would it depend karta to the right fit also.
Samirji,
Thank you, sir.
you spoke about the back office. So I remember you talking about recently you took a corporate office also. So can you talk about challenges when you operated from a store, attracting a talent and having them work from a store, and when did you realize the need to have a corporate office?
So we have back office since the longest time, but it was not as organized. Eventually, we kind of started organizing it. Having been kind of last 2.5 years with this entire corporate office, like a professional corporate office, I'd say it has its benefits. It has its downsides as well. The cash outflow, the expenses are the downside. The benefits are that there is a place where people feel good coming to work, right? And especially in today's time, that is one of the factors that is a consideration point, where it's a good environment, it's a safe environment. It looks professional, so it does help.
And before we started the webinar, you mentioned informally that alternate Saturdays is off. So can you talk a little bit about how you moved to that decision and how did it benefit the team?
So what happens is that with at least with our organization, we have sales team and we have the sales incentive, right? And the mindset generally of the sales team is very clear. They're working on holidays. That's how the front sales is. Back office is basically where you have the professionals, right? You have the team which really manage the business and all that. Unke liye, like I mentioned, paisa is not the only balance of life. There are a lot more to answer the Gen Z thing, right? Balance, work-life balance, and all that kind of things are very important as well. And very honestly, we have a very high-pressure environment in general because everybody is chasing targets and everybody's held accountable, and it's just a very high-pressure environment. So we said that agar high pressure hai, retain bhi karna hai, we need to have some kind of release happening. So 2018 is somewhere where we shifted to alternate Saturdays off. But the plan is to move to all Saturdays off. So back office stays. So basically, if we are benchmarking ourselves to be a proper corporate, then wo trajectory follow karna chahiye.
Okay, great. So there was one more question that I received before the webinar is how do you drive collaboration in the workplace?
So one of our core values is we before me. Okay, and we go all out to kind of for this value, right? So जैसे मैंने पहले बताया, one, getting the right people in. We don't want people who are self-centered because that they don't fit with our organizational values. It's not that they're not right or wrong. उनका space है एक वो culture में, but in our culture they don't have a space. Plus we have a lot of cross-departmental meetings, cross-departmental initiatives, where we are constantly getting multiple stakeholders to come and sit on a single table and discuss things around. Like example, we have the sales SPMs, which is called a sales product marketing meet, where sales team ke representatives are there, the product team are there, and the marketing team can. And so there's there is kind of exchange of ideas, exchange of knowledge, or at the same time एक दूसरे से नजर मिलती है तो भी there is a different energy that is there.
So from the culture, as said, we before I.
हाँ हम लोग so
Me.
grammatically is V before I, but अभी वो जम नहीं रहा था तो हमने V before me कर दिया. So
Me.
that
No, great. So there's an interesting question in the chat by Rashi Bhanushali. She says, considering we have old employees who have been working with us for years and have gotten very comfortable at the place, there, how do you naturally shake them up a bit without making them feel the push? The pro being the customers are very comfortable with the old employees, but has its own disadvantage. So over time, so how can you add structure?
So like I mentioned, from what I understand, customers are very comfortable with them. So it goes back to the relationship part. With such scenarios, I will strongly suggest creating a relationship kind of a section within your organization chart. And there are people there who are just there for maintaining relationships with the customer. Again, unka performance benchmarking becomes the number of customers that they've met, the number of times they've reached out to these customers or connected with these customers, the kind of number of business that they've bought from these customers. So ऐसा नहीं कि उनको relationship पे बिठा के now they have no accountability. You find a way to create that seat and attach accountability with that seat.
Measure the performance.
Measure.
Okay, great. This is another question from Ankur Gupta. He asks, in-house team or agency for digital marketing?
No straight answer. It's a trial and error. I feel that digital marketing, especially in today's time, is as good as any other media. It's all paid mostly, unless there is a virality factor, which doesn't fit our brand positioning. So we don't get into that area. So it's all abhi aaj ki tarikh mein paid. When we started off, it was completely organic and the numbers were completely organic. Abhi aaj ki tarikh mein mostly if it's coming from a brand, it's paid. Or if it's from a creator account, again with that whole virality angle or whatever trending angle, then it's organic. But for us, we are not in that space, so it's all paid. So we work with both actually. We have some people in-house also, and we work with agency also.
Thank you. There's another question from Mr. Ashish Garg. How do you deal with good sales people becoming overconfident or defiant?
I think it's a constant communications ka game, right? So again, if you have a good salespeople, who is that person reporting to? Okay, if that person is reporting to a flow manager or a store manager, it is the responsibility of the store manager, not yours, to ensure that the cultural values are being followed. Okay, and that is where you mentor the store manager on how to kind of have those values inculcated. Sometimes there is no easy answer. Either that person, if it's really bad in terms of ego problem, either that person changes or we let go of that person. There have been instances where we've let go of star employees because it's just an ego problem. Now, our idea behind that is वो customer दिन के 3 attend कर लेगी, like या 4 attend कर लेगी. But then you have a 10% team which is being affected, and now all of them are attending 40-50 customers a day, whatever that number is, right? And so for if I lose that person, I might lose 2 customers a day, for example. But at least the rest of the customers are the team, because ultimately customer service is all about the team morale, right? आप कुछ भी कर लो, at the end of the day, the salesperson attending the customer is ultimately the satisfaction index. So agar negativity hai wo area mein, then generally it's a problem. So we don't allow for it. But again, it depends. If I would be in the HNI business, if I would be in that business, I would find some other way to, or other org chart, have more individual contributor role, keep them engaged. Free बैठे हैं तभी time खराब करते हैं. So go and meet customers, do event, whatever. But then I'll not let go of that person. So it really depends on again, going back to the organizational chart, the HR strategy on how you want to deal with.
Great. Thank you, Samirji. I think you have answered very well most of the questions. And we have slightly exceeded time because we started a little late. So a final thoughts from Samirji from you for independent jewelers who want to transition to a chain store retailer? Any final thoughts?
Again, I refrain from giving any advice because I feel that it's a very individual journey. I will share my experience having so good and bad. I entered at such a young age that at 40 I have 24 years of seen the industry, right? Fortunately and unfortunately, but having seen whatever I've seen, I feel that we all just need to take it a little bit more easy. At least we are taking it a little bit more easy, right? I have seen the scenario before COVID where 2-3 years was a struggle for everybody in the industry. The corporates were struggling, everybody was struggling. Post COVID, there has been just a spurt of growth, okay, all around. And sometimes we look at all that growth and we become anxious that may enough nahi kar raha hoon, right? The game is just being in the business, right? As long as you are in the business, kuch na kuch jugaad ho jaye, right? So I mean, personally, we don't let ourselves get too anxious by things happening around us. We follow our path. We keep our head down, work, and yeah, that's and then and dire, things you start learning and you start experiencing things. You change, make as you learn, you keep on making changes. So that's how our journey has been.
So well answered, Sumiji. So very poised, calm, focused, high clarity, high level of clarity. So lot to learn. I think one session was not enough. So maybe we will catch up hold you
Just our
again sometime
experiences,
in future.
completely our experiences, no wisdom there.
It was an enlightening session.
Thank you, Shubha. You are being just
Gautam
too
Buddha
kind.
जैसा enlightened हो गए हम.
You are just being too kind. Is it you ask my team, they have a very different opinion. So यहाँ पे बैठ के 1 घंटा अच्छे से बात करने को ठीक है, but business is business.
So the results speak at the end, right? So you build a brand, a sought after brand, and highly respected regarding.
God has been kind, yeah.
So great. So with that, we have come to the end. Thank you, Samir bhai, once again. Very insightful presentation, and for being generous, especially to open up and share your learnings with others for collective growth. And thanks to everyone for joining on a Saturday, asking your relevant questions, and supporting this knowledge sharing platform. So hopefully we'll come back again next month with another speaker from the industry and learn something new.
Thank you for having me here. It was for me also. It kind of helps consolidate my thoughts. Yeah, helpful session.
Yeah, but Deepak ji, we need to thank you for getting the fraternity together and making everybody start thinking. It's very, very kind of you.
Absolutely.
Most welcome. For me also, it's learning, because sometimes me as a consultant, I'm not running a jewelry business right now. So I think when it comes directly from the horse's mouth, someone has actually implemented and reached success, that adds a little bit more flavor. So it's a collective learning. Great. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank you so
with
much,
that,
Samir bhai.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.